In our previous video, we've been talking about the role of the organization in developing and sustaining a diverse and inclusive workplace. And our previous videos looked at national culture. So we recognize diversity in terms of we might have individuals who came from different backgrounds, who came from different nationalities. When we talk about diversity and inclusion, of course, diversity is much broader than just what a national culture you grew up in or live in. It is more comprehensive than that. So we want to look at the different levels of diversity and the role of management in that. And one of the aspects that we look at is we look at in terms of developing and sustaining a diverse and inclusive workplace is first, do we recognize that there are differences in terms of cultures? And then do we recognize that there are different levels of diversity? And do we recognize the importance of having a diverse and inclusive workplace? So those are the things that we're looking at in this particular video. So let's start with multicultural awareness. So if you are doing the Pearson-Revel surveys that come with the Robbins textbook, we're doing this assessment here to look at an individual's knowledge and awareness of other cultures and cultural contexts. So in this particular survey, it breaks it down into two pieces, knowledge and awareness. And so for knowledge, we're looking at self-perceived knowledge that you have about other cultures and how to interact with a diverse type of people. So are you aware that individuals from different backgrounds may have different preferences in terms of how people interact? And are you knowledgeable about cultural issues? So, for example, are you aware of what is happening in Ukraine right now so that you can converse with someone within your organization who came from Ukraine? So there's a knowledge component and then there's an awareness component. So awareness being the self-perceived level of multicultural awareness, which is really that ability to view life from another person's perspective. So to convey empathy and understand in terms of what others need based on how they were raised, what are their expectations, and how you interact with them. And so are you able to see things from their point of view? So we recognize that in order to develop and sustain a diverse and inclusive workplace, we need to have multicultural awareness. We need to have both knowledge of cultural differences, which we've been talking about in our previous videos, and we need to have understanding, of course, the cultural issues and context. So that's going to be the current events, the history of the people that you work with. We need that awareness, that empathy. We also need to recognize that when we talk about diversity, there are many levels of diversity. So there's not just in terms of where you came from. We have what are called surface level diversities. These are the more observable forms of diversity. So age, body size, visible disability, race, sex, things that show that we have and work with people who are different from each other and from us. And then there are deeper levels of diversity, things that are not observable, people's attitudes, their values, their beliefs, their religion. And then we have layers of diversity which may be concealed, or individuals at their discretion may choose to reveal, things like sexual orientation. So all of these different aspects make us different, make us unique. And so understanding knowledge and empathy of the people we work with and recognizing that we all are different in lots of different ways, and that we create an environment that is inclusive no matter the type of difference. Surface level, deep level, hidden level, it all has value to our organization since we value individuals. So why would an organization want to sustain a diverse and inclusive workplace? So the often go-to argument, of course, is that we want equality, a moral duty to create a just and fair society. So that is one argument for sustaining a diverse and inclusive workplace, right? We want everyone to have an opportunity, and we want to recognize people for their work and their contribution, regardless of age, gender, background, so on. So moral duty to create a just and fair society. But there's more value to sustain and to sustain a diverse and inclusive workplace than just equity. A diverse workplace recognizes that we as an organization have a diverse clientele, and so it is important that the organization reflect the differences that we have in the customers that we work for. And we recognize that individuals who have different countries they came from, different religions, different beliefs, they're going to have different perspectives. And so the benefit of having a diverse and inclusive workplace is that we get different life experiences, we bring people together with unique perspectives, and it creates unique opportunities, more creative solutions for our organization. If we can have a more diverse and inclusive workplace, then our employees will feel valued, and we will have and create more opportunities for our organization to grow. As we are developing and sustaining an inclusive workplace, we need to recognize the impact of tokenism on performance. So what we're often hearing today is organizations are trying to show that they are more diverse and inclusive. And the question becomes, is this just tokenism? So tokenism is a practice of doing something. So hiring a person, putting someone on a team, putting someone in a leadership position, only to prevent criticism and give the appearance that they're being treated fairly. So if we look at the Canadian government, for example, under the Prime Minister Trudeau, the argument was that the individuals who Trudeau consults with and who leads the federal government, at least half of them would be women. Okay, well, is that because we want unique perspectives and these are qualified people who just happen to be women, or are we choosing people because they are women? So tokenism would be selecting them often because they are one of that surface level diversity. We can see that they look different, and so aren't we great as an organization because we look more diverse? The challenge, of course, is if this is simply tokenism, if it's simply to represent and have the appearance of diversity, that in terms of individual performance, the person who is the token, it can be quite stressful. So you are chosen to this position, you're the only woman on a team, you're the only visible minority on a team. If you're feeling that anxiety, that stress to perform well, not only because you want to do well, but because you feel like you are representing an entire group of people, right? So if I don't do well, if I'm not a strong leader on this team, well, then there's not going to be any other women on this team in the future. That's a lot of stress. That's a lot of anxiety. That burden to represent can create high burnout for individuals. The other challenge is that if you are selected as that token, you feel invisible. So you're extremely visible because they can see you're the visible minority, you're the female on the team, so you're watched, but at the same time, you're not seen for you and for the contributions that you individually are making. And so there is this juxtaposition of being both highly watched and also not really being seen or appreciated for you. So when we have tokenism, it can be highly impactful on the individual in terms of stress, in terms of burnout, anxiety. And so not beneficial and not the ultimate in terms of getting the best performance out of individuals. So we recognize the desire, right? We talked previously about how organizations want to be more diverse and more inclusive and the benefits to that. But we recognize that if it's simply for show, that can have adverse impact on the individual and also on the performance of the organization. So when it comes to the role of management, and we talked about this in a previous video, the role of management in developing and sustaining that diverse and inclusive workplace is about creating opportunities for individuals, but based on merits and opportunities of them, and creating opportunities for people of all different backgrounds, differences, to want to be part of your organization, and you want to have them, but it's not so much in terms of choosing individuals based on those areas of diversity. So in terms of recruiting, we want to avoid bias in recruiting, and so giving opportunity to individuals, all different types of individuals, but not necessarily selecting individuals based on a recognized diversity. So it's about highly structured interviews to avoid bias, not recruiting an individual simply because they tick a box. As we talked about before, of course, that creates this issue of tokenism, which can negatively impact performance. We want to have more multicultural awareness, more in terms of diversity and inclusiveness awareness. And really that comes down to knowledge and empathy, helping people understand and relate to each other within the organization. And the more that the people within your organization celebrate the contributions that they each make, and then that creates an environment that is able then to recruit individuals from a number of different, both recognized types of diversity and in terms of those that are not so visual, right? We talked about before, deeper levels, hidden levels of diversity. So different religions, different sexual orientations, unique people, because we have an organization that, sorry, way too many slides, that is more inclusive. And so that leads us to our next video in terms of developing a corporate culture that emphasizes inclusivity.